A young couple found dead in Las Vegas, shot execution style in their home. But the killer's identity is still a mystery.
It's something that we want to solve. It bothers us that it hasn't been solved at this point.
Sydney Land's mom says her daughter became exposed to a sordid world of prostitution, drugs, and gangs.
She wasn't brought up around criminals or crime.
Connie Lamb believes Sydney's boyfriend Neo played a key role in luring her daughter to that dark side.
Sydney was a perfect target because she was naive, she was trusting, she wasn't street smart.
And now, Sydney was dead. When cops arrive at her apartment, it's a chaotic scene of blood and confusing evidence.
I mean, you know, when I refer to DNA, I mean, there's cigarette butts everywhere, and the ashtray's full of stuff. There's drink cups everywhere. So you talk about DNA being in the apartment, there's all kinds of stuff, you know. So who knows what was supposed to be there and what wasn't supposed to be there.
Detectives say the couple hung out with a shady cast of characters who regularly partied at Sydney's place. There had been a gathering the night before. Cops quickly seized surveillance video trained on doorways of the apartment complex. It was of no use.
We went and reviewed hours and hours of footage looking. Unfortunately, there was nobody that we identified through the surveillance footage as a person of interest.
Adding to the challenge, who arrived first on the scene?
There was at least one person that came in there and found the bodies, and then comes back and reports it to law enforcement.
The cops say after he called, he then alerted friends on social media, an act that may have compromised their investigation.
When we're arriving there, a majority of these friends and even family members have already come to the apartment.
As detectives question the cast of characters, they're told the last known person to see the couple alive was Sydney's best friend Frankie, the girl Sydney grew up with, who is now working as a Las Vegas prostitute.
I know Frankie knows who did it. I know.
You know.
I know she knows who did it.
But if Frankie knows who pulled the trigger, she isn't sane.
Do you think she stays quiet because she's on the streets and it's her safety, it's her life?
Yeah.
Cops have not ruled out Frankie as a person of interest, but they say she has been straightforward with her information. And what detectives have gleaned from her and others pointing to a guy named Shane Valentine.
Everything looked like Shane Valentine may have been our guy.
And was revenge his motive? Cops say Valentine had a beef with Neo and had taken action before.
Shane Valentine actually went over to Neo's mother's house, fired around into the window, broke out a couple of windows, and rammed his car into the parking garage door as he threatened to cause harm to Neo and his family.
The incident happened 3 weeks before the murders. Then damning evidence from the bloody night of the shooting surfaces.
They could ping his cell phone in the tower in that area about the time of the murder, and then he was in California the next morning.
Cops kept an eye on Valentine, but couldn't directly link him through DNA to the shootings.
Although it appears that he may not have been the shooter, the possibility remains that he was aware of what was going to happen or what was happened immediately thereafter.
Valentine was convicted and is doing time in Nevada for shooting up Neo's mom's house. He's still a person of interest, but cops are basically at square one. And the rumor mill now churns with theories.
I do believe that Frankie's pimp is the killer of Sydney Land.
This woman we're calling Kate does not want to show her face, but knows Frankie and Sydney. She believes the guy named Damo, also known on the streets as Frankie's pimp, is the shooter. His motive? She says it all boils down to a Vegas-style pimp power play.
I do think that because of Frankie and Sydney's relationship and how close they are, that there is a possibility that the fear of Frankie possibly leaving Damo for Neo would be motive enough for Damo to get rid of, essentially, someone that could take away from the white girl that brings him so much money.
But cops don't buy that theory, and they aren't naming Damo a suspect.
There were some claims that Dominic had a rivalry with Neo.
We're not going to really talk about Dominic, but I can tell you there's no rivalry or anything that I know of.
They will reveal what they believe went down the night of the murders, hoping to shake out more information or tips.
What do you think happened that night?
I think Sydney and Neil were both preparing to leave for the evening.
Tracing the timeline, cops say on the last night of their lives, Neo and Sydney were planning to meet up with friends, but never made it out of the apartment.
I believe that based upon the interviews and stuff that were conducted, but the physical evidence, the way they were dressed, packing of the bags, it was all consistent with that. Phone records indicate that they had contacted a local hotel and casino to book a room.
Before heading out, there was a visitor, someone they willingly let into the apartment.
Again, I go back to the lack of forced entry into the apartment. They were inside the apartment with Neo and Sydney as they prepared to leave, and out of nowhere, they were shot.
Connie believes it was a planned hit, and other people in their group knew about it. She says the game plan was for friends to party at a club called Dre's, then head to Hotel Link for an after party.
Sydney had paid for the hotel, and she had sent a message to herself with the confirmation code about 11:45 on the 25th. But no one showed up at the hotel. No one called Sydney. No one texted, no one.
Connie believes no one showed because people knew the deadly plan was in motion, and Sydney was already dead.
They knew, why not warn Sydney? Why not say run, someone's coming?
Because I think that they were trying to get her out because they knew what was going to happen. And you know, when the police have said they don't believe that Sydney was ever the intended target, that it was Neo that was the intended target.
But with no suspects, no weapon, and no answers, this Vegas whodunit is a mystery haunting cops.
Do you have a motive at this point?
No, ma'am. I wish I did. I think if we would have found a motive, maybe we could have found a little direction in the case. It still keeps me awake at night. I know it keeps my partner, Detective Dasha, awake at night. It's something that we want to solve.
And so does Connie, a grieving mother suffering from a broken heart and pain that never ends.
Justice is going to come. And if it's not in this life, justice will be served. And that is a great peace of mind for us to know that the people that have done this to her will be punished.
Right now, police say they are waiting for the person or people with the right information to do the right thing and come forward. If you have any information, you can call Crime Stoppers of Nevada anonymously at 1-702-385-5555. You can also submit a tip to crimewatchdaily.com. Let's show these bad guys that we are watching. I'm Chris Hansen. If you like this story, make sure you tune in every day to Crime Watch Daily. You can find where the show airs in your city at crimewatchdaily.com. Watch it live or record it on your DVR and watch it at night. And to all those criminals out there, remember, we are watching.